YouTube, how are y'all doing today? And welcome to the first of many videos from me, the Sports Fanatic. As you can see for the first video of today, I have my AFC West predictions. We're going to go game by game through all four of the teams in the AFC West. I have some stuff around there that you'll hopefully enjoy and some stuff to look at. This is my first video, so sorry if it's a little buggy. Sorry if it's not greatest. It's the first time to make something. Everyone's got to start somewhere. But with that being said, let's just get straight into it. Not really going to waste too much time. So, let's start off first with the Las Vegas Raiders. As you can see, we have their schedule up here. The Raiders are a very interesting team. I think, without a doubt, they are the worst team in the division. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad team, though. You can see they got some really good players. They got Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones. And some more underrated people to help with their defense, I think, in Crayvon LeBlanc from the Eagles and then Anthony Averett from the Ravens, to help bolster that secondary that was not very good last season. Let's just get straight into the games, I guess. So first off, they head over to SoFi Stadium to take on the Chargers. I think that's a loss, if I'm being honest. It's not that I don't think the Raiders are good, and I think this is going to be a competitive game because they always play good against the Chargers. I just think that the Chargers are a much more talented team, and especially since it's on the road, even regardless of, it's, no Chargers fans. Comment below if you're a Chargers fan. It's still travel. It's still not home. So at the end of the day, I feel like no matter what, and regardless, home advantage is still a thing for every single team. Next up, they come home for their home opener to take on the Cardinals, and I think this is going to be a W. The Cardinals are definitely a solid team, but I think they're probably the second worst team in the NFC West. They lost DeAndre Hopkins for a good amount of time due to the suspension. And that's a really big thing. Marquise Brown is not going to replace that kind of production. They lost Chandler Jones, so they're not going to be a great team. But I think that the Raiders can definitely pick it up. I think they're better than the Cardinals. But I do think it's a very good game that I could see the Cardinals winning because Kyler Murray likes to go off every now and again. It's just Kyler Murray stuff. And next up, we got on the road at the Titans. I think that's a loss. Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry, and the Raiders cannot stop the run. As we all know, they are awful at stopping that. I actually don't know how they did last season, if I'm being honest. So maybe they were good last season. If they were, then I apologize for that. They're definitely going to be better at stopping the run with the acquisition of Chandler Jones, but it's not going to be enough to stop Derrick Henry. It's Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill, he's probably not going to be as good, but I still think he's decent enough to game manage as a quarterback, and the defense on the Titans is obviously pretty good. So I think they'll be able to win this game. I think it'll be a lower scoring game. They'll take the loss there. And then they go back home to take on they got tough two slates for these next two games. And they got the Broncos at home. Loss. Broncos are amazing. Russell Wilson, obviously. I'm not going to spend too much time on these AFC West teams because we're going to be covering them soon. Just a very good team. Got a lot of acquisitions that are very good. Not going to win that one. And then they go on the road to take on the Chiefs. Don't think they're going to beat the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are not as good as people say they're going to be. But I think they're going to take an L there to the Chiefs because they usually do struggle versus the Chiefs, especially in the last couple seasons, although they have been playing better recently. So at this point, they're going to be 1-4. Everyone's going to think they're done. And then they're going to go on a good streak of wins here. They're going to beat out the Texans. The Texans aren't very good. The Saints, I think, are very overrated. They'll take on the Saints. And the Jaguars are obviously not very good. The Colts here, I think they should be able to win against because the Colts are definitely a decent team, but I think are also overrated to an extent. Should be a good game, though. Colts are a very good matchup, I feel like, for the Raiders. They did lose to the Raiders last season, I believe. So that's kind of tough for the Colts. So I think it'll happen here again. And then they got the Broncos again on the road. I don't see that happening. I'm sorry. I just don't see them beating them. The Broncos are a very talented team, and Russell Wilson just changes so much for them. They got the Seahawks next on the road. I think that's a W. The Seahawks are not a very good football team, especially with the loss of Wilson. I don't know how many games they're going to win. They're a very bad football team. I like DK Metcalf a little bit, but at the same time, I think he's very overrated. And I like his talent because I think he's a decent player, but I don't think he's nearly as good as everybody says he is. I think he's extremely overrated. So, had to do a little DK Metcalf slander right there. Then they got to play against the Chargers again at home. I think that's a loss. They're going to struggle versus their division. They really are. The AFC West is obviously the best division in football. I don't think it's even close. The Raiders are I feel like they gained more than they lost. It's just that every other team, obviously in the AFC West, gain even more. I mean, Khalil Mack will do that for you. So will J.C. Jackson. Then they got to go back on the road to SoFi Stadium for the second time of the year to play the Rams, and it's an L. The Rams are obviously a very good team, reigning champions. I don't think the loss of Von Miller is going to affect them that much. I think they'll be fine for the most part. And then they got to play against the Patriots. I was actually going to give this to the Raiders here, but I did see a stat. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was something along the lines of them getting destroyed by the Patriots in their last, I don't know, however, etc., X amount of matchups. Don't remember, but they're going to take a loss there because they just, for some reason, cannot beat the Patriots. They lost the year that Cam Newton was there. That was the last time I remember them playing, and I'm pretty sure that was the last time they played, and they lost pretty handily. But next up is an interesting one. You got my Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to Pittsburgh to take on my Steelers. I think this is a win for them. As much as I hate to admit it, Mike Tomlin just has we as a franchise in general in the past 15, 20 years, although it is one day after the anniversary of the Immaculate Reception, which is obviously a big thing for us, the Raiders are still have our number in the last however many years. And we just can't beat them. I don't know what it is. We literally cannot beat them. We lost. I remember the last time we played them before last season when we almost won the game and then we lost because of a missed field goal from Chris Boswell. Brought it here to my eye. Next up, we got a very good game, actually. Very good rival matchup and just a very good game in general, which is against the Niners. I think they'll catch the dub there. I think the Niners are a very good team, but I think the Raiders match up very well against the Niners. The offensive line, I don't actually remember how decent the offensive line of the Raiders is. I think it's just middle, maybe leaning towards not good. I don't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. You got to remember, I'm not fans of any of these teams. I do a lot of coverage for these teams, but there's only so much I can do and so many games I can watch with these teams. So I don't know how exactly good the offensive line is, but the Niners pass rush is obviously insane. And the Raiders pass rush should be a lot better with Chandler Jones. And the secondary, too, I think is a big thing, too, because Jimmy Garoppolo sometimes is very turnover prone in certain games. So adding Crayvon LeBlanc and Anthony Averett, both very solid corners. Not top tier, but solid corners to the team should be very beneficial for them. And I think they'll catch the dub there. And then lastly, they end the season at home against the Chiefs. And you'll see why later. If this was division clinching, I'd pick the Raiders here. But since it is not, and the Chiefs need this win, you'll see when we get to them, they're going to lose. Overall, it'll give them to a 8-9 record. And I just think the Raiders are the unfortunate outlier in this division. The team is they're just so stacked. They have, not by far, but definitely the worst QB in the division, even though I really think Derek Carr is good. He's really good. It's just not better than Wilson, not better than Herbert or Mahomes. So they have the worst of those. Their wide receivers are definitely not bad. They have Renfro and Adams. But outside of that, I feel like they're kind of lacking. And I don't know how good the secondary is going to be for them. I think it'll be better for sure than last season with Anthony Averett and Crayvon LeBlanc going to the team, but I don't know how much. And Chandler Jones also, I think, is definitely a good football player and is still good at his age, but also very overrated because you got to remember this dude had 5 sacks in week 1 and he finished with 11 or 9. That's not a very good ratio. So Chandler Jones is just that guy that has that one amazing game and then the rest of the season he'll be decent. So I don't think he's a superstar. I think he's just a star. So I don't think his effect is going to be nearly as much as everyone else is, but I definitely think he'll help with the run for sure. So that's my take on the Raiders. Let's move on next, and we got the Denver Broncos. The Broncos, a team who for years I have said was going to be really good. Hopefully this season is the season. Let's get started with this. So they got the Seahawks first. Russell Wilson is returning to Seattle, and they're going to absolutely annihilate the Seahawks because the Seahawks are terrible. Not going to spend too much time on that. You should know why. Same with the next one. They got the Texans. The Texans are also a very bad football team, but I love Davis Mills. And then they got the Niners, which is a little bit more of an interesting game for sure. But I think that the Broncos pass rush is better or not better, but definitely good enough to match well with the Niners. And I think they can get the dub there. Yeah, they lost, I think, Shelby Harris, I believe, in the trade for Russell Wilson. But I think they'll be fine for the most part, and not going to do a great job of stopping the run, but they'll do good enough. And then they got the Raiders. That's a W. We already discussed that. And then the Colts, also a W. Colts is a very decent football team, but nothing more. And then after that, we got the Chargers. They're starting off 5-0. They're feeling hot, really good. I think they're going to take a loss here. I think the Chargers are slightly better, like ever so slightly better than the Broncos. I think both of these teams are interchangeable for who's the best in the AFC West. I think they're both the clear-cut best teams in the AFC West because I'm not the type of guy to be like, oh, these franchises have been poverty for forever, so therefore they can't ever be good. Although I do acknowledge that the Chargers do love to charger things up all the time, don't necessarily think that that's going to last forever. However, with that being said, the Jets are going to suck for a long time more, even though they had a great draft, and they're going to get destroyed here by the Chargers. Same thing with the Jags. And then they head into the bye week. After they head into the bye week sitting at, 7-1? A very good way to start. And unfortunately, this is when things start to come back down to earth. They're going to come back, and they're going to lose to the Titans. Derrick Henry is just that good. I feel like he can carry sometimes for that team. They're going to take a loss there. They'll get a dub against the Raiders because the Raiders are not that great, but they're still decent. The Panthers, not a good football team. They'll get the dub there. The Ravens, a good football team who I think is also overrated, but still definitely in the upper echelon of AFC teams. They'll take a loss there. And then they got the Chiefs. I think the Broncos are better than the Chiefs. I do. Here's the problem. You all know that crazy streak that the Chiefs are on, okay? I think spoiler alert for later in this, I think they're going to get a win over the Chiefs, but not right there. Cardinals, they should be able to get the W there, and I think they'll also take a loss to the Rams and win against the Chiefs, like I said. The Rams are an amazing team, and I don't just them and then one other team, which we'll get to way later when we're doing these predictions, are a team that I can see going 17-0. Not that I'm going to pick someone to, but they're a team where every single game that I see, every single matchup that I see, I think they match up well against everybody in the entire NFL. And then lastly, they got the Chargers again. They're going to split the season series and go 1-1 and beat the Chargers. Yeah, the Broncos are going to go 12-5. That's what I think. The Broncos are a very good football team. They were, I believe, 6-11 or 7-10 last year. I don't exactly remember off the top of my head. They obviously started off amazing. They started off hot at 3-0 because they had the 3 easy games to start this season. I think that the way it'll go is that they'll definitely win the first 2, but the third one, if they can beat the Niners, I think that's going to be the turning point for the whole season. I really do. Not, well, of course, it's going to be detrimental, and it's not going to be if they lose that game, they're done for the season, but I think that's definitely going to be the game that matters in terms of the Broncos' narrative. Because if they lose that game, everyone, including myself, probably will be like, they can't beat good teams. So I think that game matters a lot in terms of people's perspective on the Broncos, and I think that's rightfully pushed upon them because they can't really beat the good teams, as evident of last season. So let's move on next. We got the Chiefs, which is the most interesting one that I have on the list. I think this is by far my most controversial take on any team in this entire season. Let's get started, don't you? W against the Cardinals. Cardinals are very mediocre. The Chiefs are still a decent football team. They always come out guns blazing. They usually win week 1. I think they'll get the win there. I think got the Chargers. That's a loss. Even though it is their home opener, and I could definitely see them winning, you also got to remember that the Chargers were so close to sweeping the Chiefs last year. If it wasn't the Chargers charging it up and Travis Kelce turning into God for that one play, then the Chargers win the game. So that's all I got to say about that. I think they're going to lose there. Colts, that's a W. Colts are, once again, decent, but I don't think they're good enough to be the top teams. Buccaneers, I think that's a loss. I know Alex Kappa's gone and some other people, and Gronk is gone at the moment too. But even without those guys, I think they'll be fine. The Bucs are still really good. Brady's going to be really good. I'm tired of doubting him. I'm hoping every single season he's going to come back and be worse, but he comes back, and he's just as good, if not better. Then they got the Raiders. That's a dub. Raiders are decent, but not good enough. And then the Bills, I honestly think that could be a blowout. The Bills are a very good team. Very, very good team. I don't think they stack up very well, especially offensively, now that they lost all their people and with the acquisitions that the Bills made. Niners, I think it'll be a very, very good game that they win. Very good, but could see that going either way. Then they got their bye week. They're going to come out of the bye week, take an L to the Titans. The Titans have actually been really good against the Chiefs in the last couple seasons. Other than that AFC Championship game lost, I think they've been undefeated in the last 3 to 4 matchups. So I think they're going to take a loss there, even though it is at home. We've seen before that they can definitely beat them at home. They got the Jags. That's an easy dub. And then a not so easy game after that is the Chargers. They got a very tough slate of games here. They got the Chargers, Rams, Bengals, and Broncos. They're going to take an L to those two LA teams, both of the LA teams. They'll get a dub versus the Bengals, and they will get a dub against the Broncos as well, because the Broncos usually, as we discussed earlier, cannot beat the Chiefs. The Rams, I think they are going to get blown out by it because they do not stack up well with the Rams, in my opinion. The Rams just have such a good pass rush. They have such a well-oiled machine where I feel like the Chiefs kind of rely on their star players. They have very good secondary prospects like Trent McDuffie, and I don't remember what position George Karlaftis plays, so apologies for that, but I think he's on the defense. I don't think it's going to be easy to replace the production of those people quite yet, like Tyrann Mathieu or I believe that's all they lost that I can remember off the top of my head. So it's going to take a little bit of time for them. I think they're going to struggle versus that passing game. The Bengals, they could definitely lose, but I'm going to give them the win because they're going to get revenge over the Bengals for the AFC Championship game. Because I'd be honest, I'd be still embarrassed about that if I were a Chiefs fan. Then we got the Texans and Seahawks, both easy dubs. Obviously not good teams. Going to be very bottom feeders in the NFL. And then the Broncos, which is where they're going to take a loss. And then they're at this point, they'd be sitting at 9-7 with, depending on how the AFC looks, fighting for a playoff spot, must-win victory over the Raiders. And that'd be putting them at 10-7. They, I think, are the second worst team in the AFC West, and Tyrann Mathieu is such a big piece. Tyreek Hill is such a big piece. I love Juju. As a Steelers fan, I can tell people from a fact that Juju is definitely a good player, but he's not ready to replace Tyreek Hill. Nobody on that team is ready to replace Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce cannot do everything. He just can't. We've seen with teams like the Ravens that your tight end should not be your best pass catcher. It just shouldn't. It should not be like that. I have always been under that impression that your tight end should never be your best pass catcher because they're obviously meant there to block sometimes, or they're very versatile. So they got to do a lot of different things. So if they're your best pass catcher, then when they're blocking or something like that, someone else has to get open. Can't even rely on your tight end. So I think they're in trouble, but I still think that they could win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're not a Super Bowl contender, even though they're 10-7, because they do turn up in the playoffs. But regular season wise, I think they're probably the second worst team in the AFC West. And moving on to the final AFC West team, we got the LA Chargers, who this season will not be charging it up. And to start out, let's just give them dubs all here. Yeah. Yep. That's how I see that going down. They are stacked. I mean, really stacked. They are. I mean, you see the acquisitions. That's not even all like the main acquisitions. They've gained more people. Those are just the ones that I could notice when I went to the transactions lists to say that are the best players that they got that are worthy of mentioning. They're just so good. Like, let's just go through these games real quick. Okay, let's go through the games real quick. Raiders, Chiefs, we discussed those. Jaguars, Texans, bad. Browns. Deshaun Watson is most likely going to be suspended. If he wasn't suspended, I would give the Browns a win here. But I'm under the impression that he's going to be suspended, and I don't think Baker Mayfield is going to play for the team, regardless of if they keep him or not. If he's on the roster, I think that he's not going to play for the team. So I got them winning that one. They could drop one to the Broncos. For sure drop it to the Broncos. I just think that the Chargers are going to start out to more of a hot start than they are. Go out to a bye week. They're going to beat the Falcons too. I don't know why I didn't do that too, but yeah, they're going to beat the Falcons. And then they got a tough slate. They got the Niners, Chiefs, Cardinals. They're going to lose to the Niners. That's going to come their first L. The Niners, I think, always play well against the Chargers. I'm in the Bay Area, so I get to watch a lot of Niners games, and they usually always play well against them, most of the time beating them. So I think they'll get the win there. The Niners will get the win there. Take the win over the Chiefs, and so take a surprise upset L against the Cardinals. Kyler Murray's going to go off, and they're going to lose that game. Raiders, they'll get the dub. And they also get a dub against the Dolphins, although I definitely don't think the Dolphins are a slouch. 4 more games to end the season. This is where things get a little more tough. They're going to take an L to the Titans. They're going to beat the Colts. They're going to be sitting at, I believe, 12-3. Then they finish off against the Broncos, the Rams and the Broncos. Going to lose to the Rams. which is basically I'm going to see it as an away game, because in this case I'm going to see this as a home game for the Rams, because they're both obviously in the same stadium and the Chargers don't have a lot of fans. So in this case, I think it would be home advantage for the Rams. And then the Broncos, that is also an L, because they will have already locked up their spot. Both teams will have already locked up their playoff spots, and they're probably going to play their starters, but not the whole game. I don't think they're going to risk getting their people injured to miss it, because I don't think they're the best team in the AFC, so I actually think both of them might bench their starters. So I think you can pick either team here to win this game, because I think a team later on that we'll discuss is going to win that division or win that conference, not either of these teams. Overall, that puts him at 12-5 alongside the Broncos. That is my AFC West predictions. If you want to let me know how you think they're going to do, if I got your favorite team right, if I got it wrong, just let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear you guys' feedback, because I love football. And sorry if this video is a little janky or anything like that. This is just my first video in a little while, and with this new format. I didn't mention at the beginning of the video, but if you could please drop a like and subscribe, that'd be great. It took me, I think, 4 hours to make this entire thing. Going through transaction lists, building this whole thing and all that. It took me a little while animating all this and stuff like that. So I really appreciate it if you could do that. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. We're going to be covering the AFC East next, so I'm excited to do that. Thank you guys for watching again. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.